Well, welcome. Oh, sorry, Terry.
Go ahead.
Welcome, everybody, to our Senior Concerns Seminar Series. Today, we are presenting Creating Your Legacy. This is actually part 2 of a 3-part series called Shaping Your Last Chapter. A few weeks ago, we heard the first part, which was called You Are Wiser Than You Think, where we talked about how to recognize and embrace the spiritual gifts of aging, to understand how aging positively influences our view of the world, and we examined your life's purpose and meaning. So today we will focus more on creating your legacy, and I'm very excited to introduce our 2 speakers to you today. We have Terry Helton, the chair of the Ventura County Coalition for Compassionate Care, and Reverend Kate Lewis, the spiritual care manager at the St. John's Hospitals. And there's a lot more to their introductions, but I will let them take it away. So I'll turn it over to you, Terry.
Okay. Thank you, Martha. And I am excited about today. When Kate and I were reviewing this, I became very excited about what we're going to talk about today. We talked last time about how we grow older and how we learn things and have wisdom, and how our brains are better than we think, that they work much better than some young people give us credit for, and that we continue to grow, and that we were going to move into a different topic this week. And looking at that, we're going to share some things about our personal lives that will help you understand what we're hoping you will do, and that I'm going to challenge the 3 of us who are leading this, that we would do in our own personal lives, and that we would repeat as time would go on. So just a little taste of where we're going. So I will turn it over to Kate.
Yeah, thank you, Terry. As Martha said, I'm Kate Lewis. I'm the manager for spiritual care at St. John's. I've been the manager here for about 2 years, and I've been a chaplain for about 12 years here at the hospital. I'm an Episcopal priest in my private life, but in my public life, indeed, I'm a board certified chaplain. And so that means we serve everybody wherever they are, whatever they bring to us in any given moment, we hold and treasure and hopefully help make a little bit better. But again, I'm looking forward to this as well. And I did do a little bit of personal work. Small caveat, I am only 63. So I'm only 63. But you know, I've worked with a lot of older folks, and I'm sniffing in the air the wisdom that's coming my way. And I definitely feel wisdom coming on, and I'm truly looking forward to getting older, believe it or not. I'm past that place where I'm wishing I were younger. I'm past that, and that is a real relief. So I'm kind of honor those of you who are further along the path than me, and I come to you with some humility because I don't yet know everything you know.
Yes. I did forget to tell you a little bit about myself because I got so excited about today. I am a registered nurse, and and here's a timeline that we'll talk about. I wanted to be a nurse since I was 7, and I didn't do it till I was later in life, till 35, and made a whole journey through that. I have been a hospice nurse, besides being the chair of the Coalition for Compassionate Care. I am currently filling in, helping with COVID things, and that's a very life transforming thing to do, to see how it affects people at multiple levels. And I'm doing that for a home health and hospice agency. And I also am a volunteer, not only for my church. I happen to be, and it's just happenstance, I am also Episcopalian, and for a volunteer for volunteers assisting the elderly throughout Ventura County. And so hoping to build health ministries in different congregations. And the last thing that is important to me in my sharing is I am very involved in interfaith, and those health ministries, healthcare teams, I would like to see in all different types of faith congregations. So that is important to me, and part of what we're going to be talking about is we talk about legacies. Should we put up the slide?
Yeah. So here we embark upon a very large topic, creating your legacy. It's a big topic, but we're going to break it down into small chunks. So next slide.
There's the one we want.
You can read it, Terry.
So for age is opportunity no less than youth itself, though in another dress. And as the evening twilight fades away, the sky is filled with stars invisible by day. Now, I would like to take and read that again. I learned this a number of years ago, that often when we hear something the first time, it's hard to take it in. So when we read it a second time, hear it a second time, you might even close your eyes and concentrate on what you're hearing and how that might be part of your life or affects your life or how you feel about it. You may not feel anything about it. So for age is opportunity no less than youth itself, though in another dress. And as the evening twilight fades away, the sky is filled with stars, invisible by day.
I believe that with all my heart. I'm wondering if our colleagues in the audience do too. If that's generally the feeling you're having, that there is much to come that we couldn't have seen when we were younger.
Yeah, exactly. And that we're often hidden by that, those stars as we grow older are sometimes often hidden, but they shine. They can really shine when we allow them to. And that to trust in that they're going to shine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, trust it.
Trust it.
So we wanted to talk to you today about creating your legacy. And it maybe is a better title might be living your legacy, because it's what we do. We kind of can't help leaving a legacy. Legacy, the word comes from Old English, having to do with leaving, giving people a bunch of men or a bunch of arms or things for war. And that transitioned into becoming a word that has to do with what we leave behind, often in terms of finances, in terms of wills, our wills and testaments. Terry, you had something on that, right?
The finances and wills and
Yeah.
I got distracted reading the chat.
That's
I
okay.
apologize. I'm being honest.
That's
So,
okay. But what we've taken legacy to mean lately, as times have changed, is what kind of an emotional legacy.
I did have something on that. Thank you.
Go.
The will and testament. Thank you. I'm back on page. So, and I actually have the book I can show people. There is actually a book that talks about this.
Wait.
And it's by
There you go.
Philip Aries, and he wrote about Western attitudes towards death from the Middle Ages to the present. And when I studied this years ago, I found that I was shocked that the will and testament came from the Middle Ages, of people sitting in bed saying that the leader of the town knew that he was going to come to his demise and he was ill. And so he would sit in his bed and he would have the people of the town come to him and he would tell them his gratefulness to them. And he would also confess his sins. And then if he was gracious enough, he would begin to give away some articles in that will and that testament. And that historically, according to Mr. Aries, is how we got our will and testament. And I think that's an amazing thing. And as we go forward to write to what our legacy is, that's something to think about, to begin to go, what is my legacy? What would I like to share with my family, my friends, about my past and my present, and what my hopes are for them? It's a different kind of gift.
Certainly I think often about like, what is my son going to say about me? What does he, like when I'm gone, what's going to be the story that they tell about me? And how can I correct it now while I'm still
How can you correct it? Yes.
So to me, like in great measure, I want to be the one who tells the story of my life. I don't want other people telling,
Exactly.
I want to make sure this is me giving out my legacy. So I find myself thinking often about, when I retire in a little bit here, having the time to really do up my scrapbooks and really do up my photographs and really write down, all the chapters of my life. And I'm not sure that they'll care so much. I fantasize that they'll care deeply, but I do notice that it's working on me. It's changing me a little bit to do this.
Yes.
So I'm finding like, what's the core story of my life?
Well, and the core story starts very young, possibly, but it changes as we go along. And as we look at that, we can look and see it was this way when I was such and such an age, and it was this way when I became this age. And I have to, and even saying that, I'm going to be 68. I'm could almost babysit Kate. And
you're 5 years older than me.
well, I would have been bossy enough. So this is part of my legacy is my husband is sure that I was, if you know the Peanuts cartoon, that I am Margaret. And that I would have been bossy and a stinker as I was growing up in that age. And so that is, looking back at those legacies at those times. And now that I'm 68, I look back and I go, I really lived in this house for almost 30 years. And I'm saying that as I look at my timeline, and this is something we're going to encourage you to do, is to look at your timeline. And as I look back at the parts of my life, and I'll draw this line and I'll look under these dates, they were what we would call unique dates in my life. I go from, say, elementary to high school, not counting kindergarten. I went to 15 different schools. And a lot of people would see that as a negative thing. But I will have to tell you, there's some positives that I could write the same dates on at the top and say, this is the positive that it did in my life. And so, yes, I may have been a bossy Margaret. I'm really Terry, but bossy Terry. Yeah, but I've learned to do that because of 15 different schools. I had to learn how to stand up for myself. And I had to learn to have some positive attitude within there and not always be afraid, because looking at the bottom half of that, that was the negative, is people tended to think I was a snob. And what was really going on was I was afraid of how to become part of a new group. Mm-hmm. And so over time, my legacy began to be, oh, you're positive. You have an outgoing way. Yes, you are a very frank person, but you mean it in a kind way. So there's a part of my legacy on that timeline for different sections of my life. So, and that's only a little bit of the story, right? And I'm hoping people will remember me for the positive, joyful side and not the bossy, critical side, which is the same person.
Yeah, and what you might have seen as a pain, the needing to adapt to a million different situations, became the ability to adapt to a million different situations.
Exactly, it is. So it's a gift. And that's exactly what happened as I'm filling in as part of that legacy right now, because this home health and hospice agency could depend on me to step in to do something in a temporary situation and trust me to do it well, because that positive attitude helped me to learn through life, helped me to be not only self-reliant, but to be able to learn well. So that's a positive thing. And that's something I can share with my children to say, these are the things that have been really important. And these are the things that I hope for you. And then I would be very specific for my children. We'll talk more about that.
So that's a chapter from early life. And I think early life gives us lots of food for thought. You know,
Yes, it's the whole bed for the rest of the life. It's,
Yeah.
it's the garden leaf.
And then there are other chapters, and for each of us, there may be different chapters that were more formative, but keep an eye out for the chapters in your life that feel formative. Some things happen later, some things happen earlier, but there's always something happening, I think.
There is.
What I've discovered in thinking about this in particular for this conversation, but also just kind of doing it over the course of my life, is that there are overarching themes to a lot of our lives. And as I've worked with a lot of different people, I see people who are like teachers at heart, or they're helpers at heart, or they're champions for social justice. But, you know, it's a pretty broad stroke to paint of somebody's life, but a broad stroke is a starting point. And I kind of feel like each of us should be able to maybe at least name the broad stroke of our lives. I am an enthusiast. I am the one who's the life of the party, and that's who I'm called to be, and that's what I want to be, and that's what I do well. Or I am a seeker of knowledge, and I make sure that other people know knowledge, and that feeds me. Or I'm an artist, right? I make beautiful things and I appreciate beautiful things, and beauty is important. Or I'm a peacemaker and I'm all about just keeping things on an even keel, right? But I'm wondering if in our audience, there's people who can at least maybe make the broad stroke of your life, if you know what you are in the big picture. It's good to think about that.
It's very good to think about that.
And when I was younger, I wanted to be 15 of those things. And as I age, I find that I'm happier just being one or two of them.
This is true. Well, and Kate, I have to ask you, as you were younger and there were things you thought you may wanted to do, were you able to do them all?
I know. I really wanted to be an ice skater. I wanted to go fast on the ice and glide around and do big turns and everything else. So for my 60th birthday, I gave myself ice skating lessons. And on my second lesson, I fell down and broke my wrist.
Oh, no.
It's true. And so, you know, I'm actually okay with not being an ice skater right now. And as I'm watching the Olympic trials, I'm finding a difference in myself in that I'm watching these young people do ice skating. And I'm no longer saying to myself, God, I wish I'd done that. Or God, I wish I could do that. Or dang it, why didn't I? Like all of that kind of piercings and arrows that I would sling at myself. I'm not doing that anymore this year while I'm watching the Olympics. I'm happy to watch the younger ones. And I wonder if that's a thing of aging.
That's an acceptance of who we are and feeling just an acceptance. I thought I always wanted to play a piano and got a keyboard to start practicing the music and practice somewhat. But I also found that my life was so busy that this is not something that was going to happen. And I ended up with my grandchildren being the ones who are practicing music and following through. And what I've discovered is like, Kate, I enjoy music, but I don't have to play it. That, you know, it's an interesting thing to find that out and to accept that. I'm going to tell a little story here, and I think it fits, is that I have watched people like do somersaults and tumble, and it looks so easy. And maybe 10 years ago, maybe less, you know, how time kind of warps as we go along. But I looked at that and I went, that just looks so easy. I'll just do a somersault. And I attempted that somersault and I did the somersault, but I have to say, I have never done another one. It's out of my system because it was almost painful.
Oh, Terry.
So I will say we do these things and we learn to accept ourselves, sometimes by doing things that are ridiculous, and sometimes by just living life and finding out who we really are. So that, is that a story I might tell my kids? It might be. It's kind of funny when you think about it.
But this is a story that we tell in our 60s. I think in our 40s and 50s, we don't have the laughter about these stories.
No, because
there's no acceptance or peace about it.
Right. So it's like, I should be able to do a somersault when I'm in my 40s and 50s. And when you get into your 60s going, well, I wonder if I can. Now, anybody attending, I'm going to say, you really need to check with your doctor before you do this.
Right. We're not recommending somersaults.
No, we're not recommending somersaults. I just thought you might find that humorous. So not the wisest thing in my life. But I have now accepted the fact there are certain things I can't do. So. Yeah,
I just kind of wonder from the audience, are we getting a few amens here? Are we getting a few little thumbs up? Any responses?
So, well, maybe we should go on because
go ahead.
I was going to say, as we're talking about these things, we should look at our future goals too. We're looking, as we're writing our legacy, we looked at past things, like doing somersaults, but past somersaults, ice skating and breaking wrists. And so we've talked about a little about that, but in writing our legacy, it's goes deeper, I think, or it can go as deep as you need it to be. Maybe it's not as deep as some people would think it would be. Sometimes people want to keep it up here, and some people may want to have a deeper legacy.
Right, but that's the differences in people. I mean,
right.
And some butterflies are blue and some butterflies are orange.
So we all have our core values, and we for instance, when I was in high school, going back to that grade thing, I thought I wanted to be a nurse, and I thought I wanted to do it through a particular system. Only there was something more important to me in my life right then, and my goals changed. And I didn't go to nursing school. I ended up going to a Bible school and meeting my husband there, and went through a whole different track because I believed that I was being led by God in a certain way at that time. So that goal was different than a goal I set when I had been married, 15 years? So my goal changed, and it became, I wanted to become a nurse, and that became a primary thing in my life with my family and the support of my husband. So the goal changed. Some of my core values changed. And as time moved on, I set different milestones. So we have different milestones in our life. And even as we progress, I will probably have different milestones in the next couple of years than I've had in the last 5 years. And the last 10 years. So those are always changing. So our legacy is growing even as we are hopefully writing that legacy.
It does grow. And doing this work, I honestly can say that I believe that doing this work does increase our sense of authenticity, increases our sense of happiness. Another caveat, a serious caveat beyond the somersaults, which is serious too, is that there can, for honestly, be childhood memories and things that come up that are difficult, and there is abuse, and there are hard times, and there are things there are repressed memories. So it is possible that things will come up, and of course, in that situation, professional help is 100% necessary and required. And yeah, so be gentle on yourselves. We don't know who all we're speaking to. And, I can have a little bit of fun with this. My childhood was difficult in a number of ways, but it led me to some beautiful places. I don't have histories of abuse that I have to work with, but some people may. And that's serious and not to be taken lightly.
No.
and not to be dealt with by yourself.
And I was going to say, you may need somebody who's a professional to walk alongside you and with that too.
And there's people who do it in cost-effective ways.
Yes.
So, and it'll make you happy. There's healing on the other side of this. Just quickly, my general story is one of being an outsider. I grew up in Hawaii, so I was an outsider racially. I was an outsider culturally. When I was in the film business, I quit my sorority and I quit college sports because I put academics first. And so then you're an outsider on those groups. I worked in the film business and I was a script supervisor for 25 years, which means you're watching all the time and you're very much involved in making the movies, but it's not your movie and you're not making the movie. So then I go on and work I become a priest. And again, sure, you're vital to the congregation's worship, but you're not on the inside of everybody's spiritual life and growth. And so now I'm a chaplain and I am super on the inside of lots of people's, intimate lives and terrible moments, but they're not my moments. So I look back and I see this thread, this core story that I'm seeing is one of feeling like an outsider, which was negative, to then coming to actually realize that I am an outsider, honestly, career-wise, and then to transform that into thinking, well, you know what? But I do really good at that. I do really good at accompanying people, at being willing to walk to hard places with people, at having the guts and the courage to go to hard places with people. I had someone who once told me that there are scouts in the world, and scouts go out to the edge of if the earth is flat, they go out to the edge of the earth, they look over the side, and they come back and tell the others what they saw. I've always thought that was kind of great, but I don't think I'm quite a scout. But what I'm calling myself these days is a very good tourist. And I mean that in a good way. I feel like a tourist of life, an appreciator of beauty, and a person who's willing to go to different places with other people. And yes, it's the outside of their lives, but that's somehow becoming the core of my life. So where I had kind of gone through life for many years feeling like I didn't have a core because I was always kind of involved in other people's stuff and watching them or making other people's movies or other people's spirituality or other people's grief. But that's actually a thing. Being able to do that is a thing. And so I'm actually kind of coming into my own a little bit more, and I'm very curious to find out how much more can I do this and how much deeper can I go with people? And wow, I don't have to lament all that I've done, but I can celebrate, or I don't have to lament all that I haven't done. I can see it clearly now in a different way to celebrate what I have done.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Everybody, I think, has a seed of something like this waiting to happen for them if you do legacy work.
And if you can trust yourself and not be afraid to go in and do the legacy work. Saying that, I will say, not everybody, well, we're never going to have the same journey. Everybody's journey is going to be different, but some people will feel more able to go to a deeper level of where they've been, and some people will be more on the practical side of looking at this. So there is no right or wrong.
And that's to be celebrated. So then
exactly.
So rather than judge it as practical or deep, right? You simply notice it as practical or deep. There doesn't need to be judgment, because practicality is very useful.
It is very useful. It helps us get through life. So it's a very, very important thing. And so everybody as we proceed with this, you'll understand this is very individualized, and to trust yourself as you do the work.
Yeah.
That's very important, that you trust yourself in doing this work.
And then we can make a little bit of a transition here, but Martha, I emailed you a document of legacy questions, which you might be able to post in the chat or make available for later. It's just a starting point for people if you want. And you can find all kinds of starting points for legacy building all over the internet. There's all kinds of ways of doing this.
So actually, sorry.
So just to
That's
sort
okay.
of recap. No, we're good. Just to sort of recap where we've been so far.
Okay. The life review questions that you provided might be a little much to put in the chat because there are 50 questions.
Oh, I thought you could just put the document.
No, she
That
can't.
doesn't work.
Just
No, but what I will do is I will email the document to everybody who is attending today. So
Thank you.
tomorrow I will email everybody the document along with the video recording link.
Okay, thanks.
that would be great. So, well, as we're talking about this, part of writing our legacy is possibly and hopefully doing what's called your personal bucket list. Now, often, many times we hear bucket list in the negative now because we think it's always towards end of life. But really, you know, as a kid, it's hopefully maybe I had a bucket list, or as a teenager, as a young adult, I definitely had a bucket list, especially after I got married, because I wanted those children, right? And then as they grew up, a bucket list was I wanted to have grandchildren. So the bucket list has different times that we could look at. But a bucket list is important because it signifies hope and future orientation. And it really isn't all about dying. There are things on there that we might want to do before we die, but it is about having hope and a future orientation of what's going on. And so it's something that motivates achievement. So I would like to do such and such, and I could have some short-term goals of I would like to get my living room finished with I got the major paint job done, but now I need to go back and do the touch-ups. So that's a goal, to finish that living room. It's a short-term goal. My long-term goal is to finish everything that needs to be caught up with that house. That's a pretty big goal, but it's doable when I have a partner like my husband to do it with. So, you know, but it may be goals to do with other things in our lives. So something to look at that way.
I think for the bucket list as well, in my case, I'm looking forward to, I was never on quarantine for COVID. So I'm very sad that I didn't get my 2 weeks at home, and I've never retired. So I don't have 2 weeks at home. So I'm looking forward to spending a week or two and just seeing if I can watch the sun come up and the sun go down and just appreciate that. So that's kind of I am a tourist, and I want to be a tourist of nature as well, and a tourist of the sun.
So that sounds like that's something that really matters to you, Kate.
I want to try that someday.
Yeah. So in our bucket list, now my living room, it does not matter the most to me, right? So in my bucket list that I would write for now and for the future, probably things that matter a lot to me and that I want to make time for and attempt to do. So it's what matters most that I probably want to put on that bucket list.
You know, and that's one of our favorite sayings in the hospital. It's not about what's the matter with you. It's about what matters to you. You know,
that's right.
So I just couldn't help that one because that's one of my favorite things.
Well, and it is. And it's not just what matters to you. It's who matters to you.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. It's who matters to you. And that becomes part of that bucket list, right? So,
and some of us, for the first time, it's myself that matters to me.
Oh,
for some of us.
Right. Yeah.
You know?
And one of the things that matters most to me is my husband making life changes, right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Well, maybe we should get going. We got just a little bit.
We did so
slides.
When we talk about that legacy, talk about the bucket list, what we're going to do is encourage you to share with your loved ones.
So just to go back real quickly, what is legacy? Why does it matter? We start with the core stories, right? And exploring our legacies now helps us live with authenticity, congruency, acceptance, and greater happiness. And I stand by that. And I say that's a promise. So next slide. Ways to do it, as we said, timelines, chapters of your life, looking for the themes of your life. Next. What matters most to you, right? Goals and core values, your experiences, potential milestones. And then, oh, those are Terry's photos on the right, by the way.
These are my grandchildren, much younger. They are not this young anymore, and that's my husband. And this is actually one of the places I traveled. So a milestone could be a travel adventure.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that. Go ahead, Martha.
Oh, and I'm reading, and of course the bucket list, which having a bucket list does signify having hope and continuing to have a future orientation no matter what. And then sometimes we have, small goals, big goals, practical goals, spiritual goals.
Yeah.
And I see that one of the folks in the chat was talking about being able to collect the legacy of a wise one. You taped her interview. Yeah. Taping is a really good process.
It doesn't have to be handwritten. No.
Using video is a really great idea these days. Very, very much so.
Yes.
So speaking of video.
Yes, that was a good segue.
Look at that.
Oh, okay. Now I need to.
Yeah, okay. So we are going to be directing you to a website called the Stanford Letter Project. We find this to be very, very useful. Stanford University has been, you'll go and have a look yourself. But Terry, how else would you introduce the Letter Project in this video?
Oh, the letter writing project is it is amazing. I was so glad to find this site. And this video talks about the importance of sharing and the idea of sharing before, and they're going to say before it's too late. But part of what I like to say in life, it's never too early to share some important things like, I love my husband, I love my grandchildren, and that's easy to share with them. But to turn around and say to my daughter, I am so sorry for the things that happened at such and such a time. Please forgive me. That may not be as easy, but it's not too early to do it. And to tell her how much I appreciate her and how much I've seen her grow and how I appreciate that in her and what a great mother she is. So
that's beautiful.
It's never too early to do those things. And so this site shows you how to do it and some steps to do it. And it is good.
And indeed, it's focused more towards end of life, and we may or may not be there.
Right.
But you're right. You can always start doing these sorts of things now.
Right.
But so we'd like to show you this 6-minute video.
Okay.
Friends and family, if you're reading this, it means that I've passed on. I know that my loss is a very big blow to you and our loved ones. I'm so sorry that you're experiencing this sadness.
Let me start by saying that I am very grateful to you for your loving care and concern.
The reason we started this letter project to write to your friends and families, all of us at some point should pause and put into writing what we truly want our friends and family to hear from us, about how much we love them, how much we care, and say thank you, I love you, and goodbye. And that's what this letter is about.
Tom, I'm proud that you face your multiple medical problems head on and live a life you can be proud of. You are a talented and compassionate young man who loves God and his family.
To Charlie Tolatau, I am so elated that your eldest son graduated from high school very recently with honors.
To my daughter, the most kept moment in my life is being reunited with you and meeting all my grandsons. It's been 16 years since then. Now I'm a great-grandfather three times. What a blessing.
My biggest joy was adopting Tom. It was the most joyous moment in my life.
The key moment I remember, the family reunion trip we all had in the summer of 2015. We all got together, running on the beach, eating our favorite ice cream. That's the most joyful moment for everyone together.
A friend so dear to our hearts. There's been an interruption in our loving friendship, shared so many, many years. I'm asking for your forgiveness.
Daughter, I'm sorry that I wasn't there for you when you were growing up. If I could relive my past, I would not have let your mother take you away from me.
There's nobody really in my life that I feel offended by or that they need to apologize to me.
To Harold, you have forgotten to repay some of the personal loans you obtained from us. We are wiping your account cleared.
I want to thank you for your sacrifices in looking after my health as my caregiver.
Kathy, meeting you was a providential moment for me. Thanks for standing by me always. You've contributed greatly to a very fulfilling life. I've been blessed.
I am lucky that Dave finally, my love and my life companion, finally showed up in my life at the late stage that he did. You could have come a little earlier. And for all the...
You wouldn't have wanted me earlier.
No, I probably wouldn't have. I want to thank you very much for everything you've done for me.
I encourage everyone to write a letter like this when they are still capable of doing so. Because the worst thing in our life is to regret. So at this moment, I want to tell my wife, my sons, my friends, I love you. I value every moment I have spent with you. Thank you so much.
I have worked with a lot of people, and they're all the same. We all need the same kindness, the same love, because that's what keeps us going.
To Eddie, my husband, I love you for being my friend, my honey, my lover. Love you for taking very good care of me and for allowing me to be me.
You know I believe in angels, so be prepared. I'm coming back. I'm going to be with you. It might be a thought, it might be a hummingbird, but I'll be there. Bye.
It is very important to write this letter because you never know when your time's up. Write this letter so they may know that you love them and you are able to say it before you're gone.
I truly hope you find peace, love, and joy in the years to come. I love you very much, Dave. It's hard to say those things. It's easier to write, actually. Early on in my life, being in the military, that you don't know what tomorrow's going to bring. So you each day live to the fullest and be prepared for the unexpected.
That's a little hard to follow. I've watched it a few times, and I think about some of the things that are said, and it made me tear up when she said, "Thank you for letting me be who I am."
Mm.
And I would say that back to my wonderful husband. He has let me be who I am and has supported me in everything. And I can't imagine leaving this existence without telling him that and how important that is. So I hope each of you found as much meaning in that video as I have. And to know that I put in the PowerPoint the steps of documenting your legacy of each step that was shown in that video. And they did a great job of it. And that I did not put in here the website link, but I think Martha can put that in for the Stanford Letter Writing Project. And it has all of the different, in different languages. It has the documents to help you do that. So just something to do. One of the things that I learned in my studies was about, and Martha can correct me, but I learned this from a female rabbi, was to do a vidui. And a vidui is a term that's used usually for the deathbed. I found out, I did a little more research. But this rabbi had us do it as a practice in our life of going back to that will and testament of writing the things in my life that I was sorry for and regretted. I would say I regretted, and writing those down, writing the things that I was glad for and should be proud about, and we should do that. And then writing asking the forgiveness for the things I regretted, but also writing the hopes and dreams for my future or for my family's future. And what made that so significant was that it was one thing to write it, as he said, it was easy to write it. It was very hard to read it to other people, and you find the meaning in that. So sharing with your family, even if you don't write anything, I will encourage you to have a dinner to talk about things. Have a special time to do this. Set it aside and share what matters most to you. And in that sharing, be able, possibly brave enough to say, these are all the things that have been in my life. These are the things that I just said, regret and grateful, that I hope for you. But if I were to become in a circumstance that I cannot share what I want in a medical situation, these are the things I do or I don't want done, and how important that conversation is. And if we can lead into it with our personal life, then I think that end of life conversation becomes more natural. And
I agree with you, very much. It's very hard we're moving towards the idea of next time when we get together, of really taking a deep dive into advanced directives and this business of how much aggressive medical treatment does somebody want at the end of their life, and how do you communicate that to your people, and how would that change over the course of your life and whatever your chronic illness is going to be. But knowing who you are first before you get to those conversations, all this that we're talking about of, accepting the fact of aging and looking for the wisdom that we have within us, looking at our own stories and coming to know who we are and sharing that with others. And your concept of vidui is very much, of course, like the fourth step in 12-step work, or all of the steps. And so, so many spiritual paths see the value of good introspection and retrospection
Yes.
for the purpose of prospection, of seeing the future. But looking inside, looking back can help us then look toward the future and prime our family for having these intimate conversations about what might be difficult topics.
Right.
So we're all about, have dinner, spend some time talking. There's all kinds of games out there. There are card games. There are other ways of having meaningful conversations. I don't know, Martha, do you know of any of those off the bat? But there are decks of cards you can get that are conversation starters.
Oh, I know. It's the Go Wish game.
There is Go Wish as well. Yeah, so there's lots of ways that our culture is wanting to help support this. So whatever works for your family, I highly recommend the Stanford Letter Writing Project website. If you would explore that before we get together next time, we'll be in really great shape.
Yes.
So this was the last slide, so I'm going to stop the share. Is that okay?
That's great. So I just thought of this crazy idea. My neighbor does stamping, which is working on making albums, I guess. And if that's something that your family enjoys, or if you have a hobby that you enjoy to make memories, that can be a great opportunity to begin that sharing process. And over a time, it doesn't have to be a one-time thing. And I would encourage you to do it as a time with your family, memories with your family.
And don't forget, when we do this, we are teaching the younger folks how to do this as well. They're watching us. And
Yes.
as we demonstrate introspection, they learn to be introspective.
Very true. And I think for some people, using a tool to prompt them, like a card game, or even the Stanford Writing Letter Project, where you have that to sort of prompt you in your steps, can help facilitate the conversation if you're not as comfortable just opening it up on your own. And then it's funny because you were talking about doing a project together. If you're working on something like scrapbooking at the same time, it can sometimes be easier to talk about things. Like they always say with teenagers, have the difficult conversations when you're driving in the car, because then you can't look at them. And it's easier for them to share when they don't feel like they're on the spot. So sometimes having a distraction, something that you're doing while you have the conversation, can make it feel more comfortable for people.
That's really true.
And doing that, and this is, I just have this vague feeling there's people out there going, but my children don't want to talk about this. And so doing it in this fashion helps eliminate that fear of mom and dad are going to talk about what they, their end of life plans. And I really don't want to hear it because they're going to live forever. So that this may help eliminate some of that fear of talking about it.
You know what? And maybe in your family, they aren't going to talk about it. So you just write it down, you have it ready for them. And when the time comes, it's there.
Yep.
But there may be families that they're just not going to.
They're never going to.
Again, you can't make a blue butterfly into an orange butterfly.
This is true. Very true.
And they're both beautiful.
So, any questions, Martha?
I was just going to say we're in our last minute, so this is your chance. If there's something else you wanted to share or ask, to please type it in. And I know as I was listening, I was making notes. I love to catch these amazing pieces of wisdom that I feel like you both impart on us. I love the saying, it's not about what is the matter with you, it's about what matters to you. And I think I need to frame that in my office here. It really means a lot to me. And when you said, I don't have to lament what I've not done, I can celebrate what I have done. And I think that's huge for so many people. And I really believe strongly in the process of retelling our own stories. It allows us the opportunity to reframe them in a different way.
Amen.
And it's incredibly powerful.
Yes.
So two family members can share the same story, the same experience they were both there for, but they can share it and retell it in a completely different way. I'm sure many of you have had that experience. So it just goes to show how much of our perceptions we are putting on these experiences. So that means we can use that as a strategy to change our perceptions.
Right.
And this is where aging brings the wisdom to look back and see the growth, but also see how well we handled things and we didn't realize it at the time, to acknowledge the positives in our life that came from that. Such an opportunity that aging brings to us.
Definitely. Thank you. And the third and final part to this series, it's upside down, will be on Tuesday, February 8th, also at 2 p.m. over Zoom. And each of these parts you needed to register separately for. So I'll make sure to include the link to register when I send this email tomorrow with the follow-up information. So if anyone has not already registered, you can go ahead and register. And that part 3 will be how to make sure your wishes are followed at end of life. So we'll explore the challenges of potential end-of-life medical interventions, understand how to advocate for yourself and others, and learn how to document those wishes. So I think that's a really important step and sort of a culmination of the 3-part series. So I look forward to that. And I want to just really thank both Terry and Kate for sharing your stories and your wisdom with us today. And I very much look forward to the next one on February 8th. So thank you to everybody who attended. I will send an email out tomorrow. So thank you all and have a wonderful evening.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take care, everyone. Be well.
Be well. Thank you.
Thank you.